Well, welcome to Technology and Education. Today I'm Richard Smith.
And I'm Caroline Crawford, and we are coming to you from TCEA 2013. And TCEA stands for Texas Computer Education Association. And this is our annual conference, and we're having a brilliant time. And we run into one of my old friends, Ray Rose. He's an assistant professor over at Houston-Tillotson University, as well as he has his own company, Rose and Smith Associates. And Ray is brilliant.
And we're
truly brilliant.
Online learning evangelists.
Online learning evangelists. And today we're discussing what distance education might look like in the coming years of the 21st century.
And Ray's the guy
how
to
about
ask.
if we talk about coming in the 22nd century?
22nd century is a bit of a stretch for me. I mean,
Why not? Let's do it.
We've got the first 12 years of distance of the 21st century, so we have a little bit of a pass to look
13.
down.
This is 2013.
13.
Is it
We're in the midst.
2013?
It is.
Oh, my
well,
God.
12 passed.
Yeah, you lost
We've
a
used
year.
12. We're just starting 2013.
But,
So we still have a chance.
we still have a chance.
But at any rate, is there a hope for distance education in the 21st century? Ray, you're the expert.
Ooh,
Go
That's
ahead.
a
is there
setup.
hope? That's an interesting question. I think one of the problems that I have is that we talk about distance education, and distance education covers such a broad range. It's really the umbrella. And under distance education, we include things like online virtual education. We've got hybrid education. And so is there hope for distance education, or are there hopes for some of those individual components? Because I think, if you look at the history of distance education, you can go back to the Pony Express. And
Well, that's a messaging system, but I think
it was
But
distance
it's true.
education.
That was distance education
There were
at the time.
people who were doing correspondence
And
courses.
television.
correspondence
and
courses.
radio.
I think correspondence courses, definitely, that's been around a long time. It's a real antecedent to distance education. I think that because we have computers and telecommunication now electronically driven, it makes this whole process a lot more attractive and gives a great deal of validity to it. But let's get back to what you were
If
talking
it's
about.
designed well,
the-
it always
these-
comes back to the quality of instruction, the quality of the design.
Yes, well,
Yeah.
and that
And
gets
how
back
do
to
we
that
assess
course.
it? Is
to
assessing it
that, what
appropriate?
Ray was
How
saying
might it be
about
appropriate? See, you can't stop us. We'll just talk over each other.
that was, when Ray mentioned you have fully online courses, and then you have hybrid courses. Hybrid
And
courses
flip teaching opportunities and who knows what else.
In response to when I asked him what the future might be. So first, a fully online course is exactly what it seems. Everything
Right.
is contained
That's right.
online over the internet. Hybrid course, for those who are watching who don't necessarily know what a hybrid course is, what is a hybrid course?
Well, that's one of the interesting problems with the term, because hybrid generally covers a range from 100% online to 100% face-to-face. And so you can have a hybrid course, you can have somebody call something a hybrid course that's 10% online and 90% face-to-face, or just the opposite, or 50-50. And all of those fall into this broad definition of hybrid. They are very different, or they could be very different pedagogically. They could be different from a structural piece, and we lump them all together. And that's one of the problems that I have in general when we talk about distance education or even online education, is we tend to be talking about a unity, when in fact it is a very discrete set of different approaches. And even if we talk about just online courses, there are such a range of pedagogical approaches, some of them having more validity than others, in my opinion.
Depending upon the subject matter as well. I mean, you can't teach someone how to hammer a nail into a board just by talking about it. You actually have to become engaged with and develop the real world experience.
The hammer and the board. But let me get back to what you were just saying about the content and the design of these courses at the high school level, where we see a lot of online activity. This is dependent upon something that you are involved with, which are the standards for distance learning courses, otherwise known as the NAECOL standards. How does that influence the design of a course for public schools?
Well, Ray's also very involved in assistive and adaptive technologies
Right,
within
but let's
different
stick
types of learning environments.
stick for
I'm
the
just
IT
throwing that one out there.
because
We'll get back to it.
his brain is churning, so I don't want to get him off track. It's a big task.
I'm not allowed to say anything.
At the appropriate time, you may speak.
Speak.
Oh, he said that
Speak.
to me. Can you believe it? Ray, what are your thoughts? Stop us.
I think the issue is, number one, there's nothing that requires any course to meet the INACOL standards, other than local decisions.
Okay.
In Texas Virtual School Network has adopted those as their standards. But this is an independent organization that's just out there, and they said, here's what we think are good quality standards. We could do our own. We could create our own standards.
Why shouldn't we?
And why not?
The Smith-Rose-Crawford standards for it.
Oh,
Well,
I
we
can
have
have
them.
a name?
We actually have a
Smith
set
Squared, Rose Crawford.
of we have the Rose Smith set of criteria that we look at in terms of what we believe are high quality courses.
Absolutely.
So, but we could do it.
It doesn't include you, buddy. It's his wife.
But we could start something and do it and have standards. So this is a group that has done it, and the difference is that the standards go back to actually the origins of those standards go back to when we first created the virtual high school, and that was back in '97.
Which virtual high school?
And
Is
that's
Florida?
the virtual high. No,
Or
no.
is this a different
This is the first one,
Okay, the
which
first one.
was one that I was part of the creation of, and it's the Virtual High School Inc. And we put together a set of standards. Those standards for that particular program evolved into, NEA did some work with standards, and then SREB took standards, and those became the INACOL standards. So there's an origin there, there's a history behind it, which is good, but there's nothing that requires anybody to play the game with those standards other than local decisions. So
But we all agree that there should be some sort of standards.
we agree there
at the
should be
high
some
school
standards.
level at the
I
very
think there
least.
should be at the university too.
Well, what are okay? Let's
Look
what
at
are,
that deafening silence. I'm just watching the game.
No. I agree with you, and I frequently speak to colleagues about standards where we teach for online courses, and there is a certain reluctance there because the standards imply a certain design model to
And control over
How
someone
about
else's freedom
how about quality?
of instruction.
How about just talking about quality?
Yes, yes.
So you're going to sit there and tell other professional colleagues that their quality may not be of an appropriate standard?
I think there's evidence.
Oh, sure, there's evidence.
There's evidence that says that they're not necessarily doing it. One of the
Well-
interesting pieces is to start looking at the research about online courses.
Don't you love that, actually looking at the research that's occurred
There's-
and making decisions based upon prior knowledge?
Yeah.
I love that. The man's brilliant.
But let me just play back to
You just
one
put
of
up
the
with me.
pieces in terms of design. I think one of the problems with a lot of the programs is that they're not looking at what has been learned by other programs. A lot of what they do is not invented here. It's sort of, we know what we're doing. We're going to put together online courses. We're going to develop it. Doesn't make any difference what Florida has done, what any other organization, Michigan has done, what the virtual high school has done, because they're different. And it's with a fairly high degree of certainty that I can look at a program and know what sorts of problems they're going to have in what year, because they're repeating the path that
Absolutely.
everybody else has taken. What I would like to see happen in the field is for a program to come along, look at the learnings that other places have had, and then build from that.
what the other places have learned from their experiences implementing
case study basis.
Yes, all the
online
way.
courses. But what you're saying is that's very common in education, maybe in other fields too, so that every night we have teachers, thousands upon thousands of teachers going home and writing lesson plans, where lesson plans have been written for the last 100 years
Right.
at least. They could use lesson plans written by other people, do some variations to meet the needs of their own particular face-to-face students, but that's usually frowned upon by instructional supervisors. So it's the same thing with distance
Yep.
learning. Like you say, I find that also people like to reinvent the wheel, and they spend an awful lot of time doing that, and then they sit around scratching their heads when things don't work. A very common illustration of that is in video education, where a district will try to have a distance education course, video-based, with another school someplace else miles away, and they suddenly discover that the schools are on two different schedules.
Yes.
Now, this mistake has been made since the 1940s. And so if you read the research, as you and Caroline suggest, you won't make these mistakes.
Or at least know going in that you will have these issues.
Back about 10 years ago, we had a governor in a state propose that the bell schedule for all schools in the state was the same to address that issue.
Yes.
What?
Oh, yeah. He didn't get reelected.
That's brilliant.
He didn't get reelected. I don't
I'm
know if that was
shocked.
why.
The bell
but-
schedule got him, but you know what? The bell schedule has got us. We've reached the end of this edition of Technology and Education Today. Yes, it's true. We've run out of time.
Oh, dear. This
So-
has been fun.
Yes, we've
You're wonderful.
we have been talking with Ray Rose from Houston Tillotson
University.
University
As
here
well
in
as
Austin,
Rose
Texas.
Smith Associates.
Yes, that's right. Here in Austin, Texas.
The man is absolutely brilliant. We're lucky to know him.
My name is Richard Smith,
I'm Caroline Crawford.
and we have been we are coming to you from the
Come on
Texas
now, Ray,
Computer
you have to play
Education
too.
Association 2013 convention or conference.
Bye.